Good morning, students. Before I begin, today 10:30 to 11:30, there is a talk by one person, Mr. Prabhu Seduraman. He is basically the division head of Firstsource Solutions, who works on many digital transformation technologies. Um, many things they have worked on. They are the one which behind the uh, Paytm or similar kind of uh, payment gateways, and also many of similar kind of digital transformation technologies they have been working on. So he'll be talking about the technologies and trends in digital transformation, what is right now the current technology, and then what is the scope of that, security aspects of and other things. So please attend that talk. We have shared that to the faculty advisors. Probably they'll be sharing the link. Anyway, towards the end of the class, I will post that link in this chat section also. Your third hour class is not there, so that you can attend this. So please don't miss that. Okay. Okay. So what we have been talking yesterday was about um, I mean, we have heard about asset properties, which is the base of an RDBMS. Now, similar way, for a NoSQL database, the concept, what we call it as is base concept. We call it as base because it's the short form of basically available, soft state, eventual consistency. So three different terms they are mentioning, basically available. So the data is available across all sites. It's in soft state. Soft state means copies of the data item may be inconsistent. And then the third one is eventual consistency, it follows, which means that over a small period of time, if there are no update messages or update transactions are happening, in that case, you will be able to find that the system itself is coming to consistency. All the data will be in consistent behavior. Okay, so that is referred as eventual consistency. So most of the NoSQL databases in a distributed environment follow base concept. That is what the meaning is. I hope you are clear about this. Fine. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Now we have seen RDBMS in depth. So what exactly NoSQL databases doesn't provide compared to RDBMS? Okay. Um, on the left hand side, you can see 3 points: no built-in join, no asset transactions, and no SQL. Okay. The first one we will start with no SQL. There is no SQL kind of a structured language for retrieving the data. So the moment when I say no structured query language, many probably will feel that it is much better. Why? Because for RDBMS, you need to learn SQL. You need to understand SQL. See, basic select kind of queries, it is fine. But think about trying to retrieve from multiple tables, multiple hosts from multiple sites. We are talking fully on a distributed environment. Okay. So in that case, it can be very complicated. Your query can go very, very complicated. So if I don't have a full understanding about uh, SQL, then it will be very difficult for me to write the query and then get these things done. On the other hand, if there is a direct programming language which can be used to do this, then it could have been much better. So MongoDB kind of a platform, if you look into it, there is easier way than compared to SQL to access the data. So NoSQL will be kind of a good thing for such kind of an environment. No asset transactions, which means that you don't have that rigid framework. Every transactions, the transaction processing, I hope you remember that. What is meant by a transaction? What you meant by a transaction?
Sir, a group of logically connected statements that needs to be executed. It's like a bundle.
Okay. Say for particular operation to perform, you may require multiple query to be executed. So those logically connected set of queries together is referred as a transaction. And transaction management is handling these transactions in the sense every transaction is to be completed, every transaction's log has to be written, and if a transaction is completed and then log is written, we call it as in committed state, so that rollback will be kind of easy or similar kind of things, or you have to restore back to a particular point that can be done. So many things we have discussed. Then we spoke about multiple transactions parallelly happening. In a single system itself, multiple transactions can parallelly happen. So in a distributed system, parallel execution of transaction is going to be happening. So, I mean, concurrent execution of transaction is going to happen so often. So in that case, how you will manage those transactions? I hope you remember about the two-phase locking mechanism, what we have discussed in transaction management for concurrent transactions. All those things will come into picture. Now, none of that things goes with NoSQL kind of a mechanism and no built-in join. So built-in join techniques, join mechanism itself is not there for NoSQL database. Now you can see on the right hand side that MongoDB is a NoSQL database which follows CAP theorem. Okay, and MongoDB comes with which particular features? What are the two aspects of CAP is followed by MongoDB?
So, like generally, partition tolerance combines with consistency or availability. Here, I think availability, I guess so.
MongoDB is written according to that diagram with which combination? C and P or A and P?
CNP. Sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir, I have one more doubt.
Tell me.
So when you say like when you make a diagram and put everything into it, like telling RDBMS, MongoDB, and all such stuff, then but why are we dealing about CAP theorem only in NoSQL, and we were not talking about it at all during when we were studying DBMS, RDBMS, etc.
What you have studied in RDBMS was a single server mechanism. Okay. The centralized server RDBMS architecture only we have discussed in your fifth semester DBMS course. We never discussed about distributed environment. Distributed environment only in the beginning we have discussed. When it comes to distributed environment, I mean, in a single centralized server, the RDBMS package is designed to provide you, I mean, not the cap, but the ACID properties. I mean, the emphasis was on the ACID properties, not on, I mean, at that point of time, if there are no multiple sites available, there is no network going to come into picture, then we don't have to really worry about uh, I mean, partition tolerance or availability kind of a feature. Availability of a single server is, it is a very simple mechanism. There is no complexity available in that. But when you have a distributed environment, even the RDBMS is not going to give you the exact feature of a relational DBMS, how it works on a single centralized server. Because when you have multiple places, data is available, it is fragmented or replicated. I mean, fragmented is still manageable, but if you replicate it, then you will have the problem of consistency coming up. So at that point of time, we have to worry whether data is in consistent behavior or not. So that's why in normal RDBMS scenario, when we discussed, we never spoke about CAP theorem, because that point of time, our whole focus was on we have a single centralized server for an RDBMS structure, and every client is accessing it. We spoke about only a client server architecture, multiple clients accessing to the central database server. Okay. The moment when I have multiple servers to host and multiple servers have to talk to each other, these new concepts will come into picture. So that point of time, consistency, availability, and partition tolerance, all the three things comes into picture. And then when we look into a distributed RDBMS structure, consistency and availability were the two features what RDBMS is supposed to provide. I mean, like RDBMS picked to provide. Whereas MongoDB kind of a NoSQL databases picked to provide consistency and partition tolerance. Some other databases provided. I mean, like, it's not that all the three providing together will not be possible. So they picked any two, whichever they considered as more required for those kind of applications. That is the one which was trying to look for. So generally, if you see, most of the NoSQL databases are designed with a reason that the RDBMS, which was the first type of databases what we spoke about it, is very rigid and it is very structured. So unstructured data or flexible programming or development is required. RDBMS was not supporting. Due to that reason only, all the other types of databases came into picture, whether it is MongoDB, whether it is column-based Cassandra kind of things, or graph-based Neo4j, or anything you mentioned. All of them has been developed just because of the single reason that RDBMS is very strict and very structured. When I have an unstructured data or a flexible programming or development environment is required, it wasn't really working with an RDBMS architecture. So they came out with different various options. So most of these were not limited to the ACID properties or that kind of an architecture. So all of those new variations of databases try to follow any of the two properties of CAP theorem. That's what the in general understanding. So, but when you look into RDBMS also put into a distributed environment, they also try to follow consistency and availability. And then we made that chart. So when we were talking about relational DBMS in your fifth semester, we never spoke about a distributed environment. That's why availability and partition tolerance was never came into picture at that point of time. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Now we were talking about MongoDB's features. Now the next thing is we have learned about schema in RDBMS. What is a schema in RDBMS?
So the,
What is the schema in RDBMS?
so the design of the tables and everything, so in the logical level.
Design. I mean, what information basically that will provide you?
Structure only, no, sir. Like how exactly the what all attributes can be present and the data type of it, like
Yes.
schema structure.
So your schema and how you represent your schema in an RDBMS structure? How the schema was represented in RDBMS?
As tables.
You directly went into tables or something else?
Like there will
Okay, forget about DBMS. Design is a step in your software development life.
yes, ER diagram and all will come into picture.
ER diagram. We'll come to that. So that is what I wanted to ask. So before that, let me finish what I was trying to say. Design is an aspect what is there in software development life cycle. For any software to be developed, we will have a design aspect. So how we used to represent the design? The first thing was acquirement. I mean, see, you will try to learn what is that problem statement and then learn about it and gather information. So requirement gathering was the first step what we used to do. And then we will build a requirement specification, right? The requirement specification is what we use to make a document. And from that document, we will come to the design aspects, considering what kind of platform we can use and other things. Then we will come across graphical representation of that architecture. So there were different ways in which we used to represent the design. Architectural diagram is one, module diagram is one, data flow diagram is one, flow chart is another one. So various options, control sequence or what you call Sequence diagram is another one. So various options used to be there in case of a design, I mean representation of design. Whatever is there in your software requirement specification, that is been captured into some diagrammatic format. Various diagrams because it emphasizes on various aspects. A data flow diagram looks into how the flow of data between different modules. A flow chart represents how the control flows from one location to another location. If you look into a sequence diagram, what happens next you will be able to figure out. And an overall picture you can gather from an architectural diagram or a block diagram. So that is how in a normal software development process it used to happen. Similar kind of a structure is there for DBMS also. So in case of RDBMS, when you heard the different requirements from a user for the particular application, you will first make a diagrammatic representation of that, which collects what is the or which pictorially represents what is the relation between entity and its attributes or different entities, how they are connected. So an entity relationship diagram or in short ER diagram was used to represent your architecture of your DBMS. Now that information, if it is available to you, then a DBMS engineer or a database administrator can easily convert the ER diagram into a form of tables. So from ER diagram, what are the tables required? Which one should be made as primary key? What should be made as foreign key? What constraints should be gotten? All those things you can decide. You will talk about participations. You will talk about cardinality. You will talk about relationships, how they are connected. You'll talk about entities. You'll talk about weak entities, primary key, foreign key, key constraints, integrity constraints. All these things were represented in the form of an ER diagram or extended ER diagrams, EER diagrams. So schema is nothing but the architecture or the structure of your database, what you are building, and using ER diagram or EER diagram, you used to represent that. Fine. So schema or ER diagram was the key for a DBMS development. So then we are talking about a NoSQL database. So there also I require something similar to that. So here we represent the term or we use the term data model rather than using the term schema. The data model is nothing but how my database is structured. What it contains. Now in case of MongoDB, what will be the contents? Will there be any tables?
No, sir.
Then what will be the contents of MongoDB?
So JSON files.
JSON documents, right? So now somebody has to say that what are the documents will be there, and then in each document, what you are expecting to have. What is the content of a JSON document?
Key value pairs.
Key value pairs. So what are the key value pairs you can expect in a particular document? How I can access that particular document? And then what should be the next document we are having? What are the key value pairs for that? So all this information in some format you have to represent, because that is what the first step you have to make. These are the documents what we are going to build, and in each document, these are the key value pairs we are going to have it, how to access it, how to update data into it, all those things we will design first. So that representation is referred as the data model. Okay, what MongoDB uses is a binary JSON, or in short, we call it as BSON format. Developers can easily map modern object-oriented language without a complicated ORM layer. Now, the beauty part of MongoDB is that it has been written using C++. I hope that is what mentioned we have already mentioned. So C++ is an object-oriented programming language. So all the object-oriented programming languages can directly access this content without having an intermediate layer. In case of RDBMS, we require an extra interface, right? Can a programming language directly access your database? You have developed a project. So from that experience, you tell me whether from Java or PHP or something, can I access the database directly? Is there any APIs available for me to do that, or functions available in your programming language which can directly call these? Hello.
No, sir.
So then what you were doing?
Yes, sir. Like, yes, we do have methods to imbibe the database in our code now. So that only you are asking, like linking basically.
No,
Just like how MongoDB goes well with C++, even Python and C, Java
yeah,
and
how
stuff.
you have connected your C or C++ or Java or
Using code
Python
only,
code to your database directly?
using APIs. I
What is the
mean,
API
like,
you used?
uh,
Now my
uh,
question is the API part of your programming language normal
no,
functions or is it
sir.
separately designed for
Separately designed,
database?
sir. Like,
Okay, have you heard about something called ODBC?
yes, sir.
What is
Uh,
ODBC?
I forgot, sir. I'm trying to recollect.
Anyone who remember what is ODBC?
So, database connectivity, like
Open database connectivity is ODBC, Java database connectivity is
JDBC.
JDBC. And what exactly ODBC or JDBC does?
Um, like in layman's term, I know, sir, but
Tell
not.
me in layman terms.
Yeah, that it tells actually what you told only, sir. It connects the backend with the our code, the
Okay.
database with the
Using
code.
SQL, sir. No. Yes, SQL only, sir. I guess ODBC is
I
both
mean, SQL is different,
ODBC
ODB
and
is
then
different. Please understand this. Okay. Now,
okay, sir.
I have a database installed. Say, for example, MySQL or Oracle you have installed. You have an interface required to run your SQL queries, right? You require an interface, either the SQL plus what is available in Oracle, or MySQL as a command prompt, or MySQL has got various options like SQL Yo or PHP MySQL admin kind of features, wherein it gives you an interface wherein you can type your SQL query and that gets executed, data gets retrieved. Now, that is one side. Now I have written an application program, which is a front end page, which requires some data to be retrieved from the database. Can that application program directly talk to the database? The answer is no, because any communication to the database goes in the format of SQL queries. Now, can the SQL queries be understood by the programming language? Answer is no. SQL is another language. This programming language is different. This is different. Two different languages. So you require some kind of an interface which can connect these two. So assume that I am having Java programming on one side. Okay. So the Java, when it says that I want to connect to this particular database, that needs to be converted into some kind of SQL statements and executed. Similar way, that SQL statement, what is coming from the response, that has to be mapped into something which Java understands. And this is what your database connectivity or in general ODBC does. ODBC is written using C++ codes more towards system level, operating system level. So that was the initial design came out. But then Java said we will have our own interface on it. So what they said is they, because from Java ODBC invoking was little tricky. So what they did is they introduced one more interface called JDBC, Java Database Connectivity, and they will connect JDBC to ODBC, ODBC to SQL interface to the database and then retrieve. So this bridge was formed and then using that only they were communicating. Same thing goes with any programming language for that matter. C++, C or Python, everyone uses ODBC. Okay. Now, there you require an interface so that your programming language or application can talk to the other side database through this interface. Now, on the other hand, on a NoSQL database like MongoDB, you don't require this conversion because first of all, SQL is not there and is based on BSON objects or binary JSON objects are directly can be accessed or processed in any object-oriented programming language. Why? Because the entire MongoDB is developed using C++ routines. So those routines can always accept parameters from other C++ functions. You might have heard about friend functions and virtual functions. What is a friend function? Have you ever heard about friend functions in C++?
Sir,
You have
when
studied Java, right? Have you studied Java?
yes, sir.
Oops. Yes, sir.
Oops. Okay. So what do you mean by an interface? Java interface I'm talking about.
Sir, it's basically like a class only without definitions for functions. Basically, it's like a template for what the interface. You basically
Yeah.
inherit from the interface and work with it.
So basically it gives you set of functions which can be used to access contents in that particular class, right? So same way, a friend function is something which will tell you that between these classes, this particular friend functions can access. So similar way, these C++ routines of MongoDB has open up friend functions so that any other C++ code can directly call those friend functions and then get the things done. Using this mechanism, MongoDB is directly can be manipulated from a programming language, any object-oriented programming languages, okay, without having any interface in between. So basically, this will be lightweight and efficient. Okay, give me a moment. Okay, we'll come back to that, what we were talking. Okay, if you look into the terminologies of relational DBMS to MongoDB, the term database remains the same. Instead of table, in MongoDB, we use the term collections. And in place of tuple or row, we call it as document in case of MongoDB. A column in an RDBMS is referred as a field in MongoDB. And instead of table join, you have embedded documents. Primary key remains the same, or you may sometimes call it as default key. And the type of database server and client is MySQL D or Oracle or MySQL or SQL Plus. Here it is all called Mongo. I mean, the server is MongoD, and then the client, what we use is Mongo. Okay, so MongoD, D comes from a Unix environment. D stands for daemon, which means a service running in your system. That's what a D means, a daemon means. So Mongo daemon or MySQL daemon are the common terms used. So in short, they call it as MongoD. That will be the server which is running, and the client for that is Mongo. Follows similar to MySQL. If anyone has worked with MySQL in Unix platform, you will understand that to start the service, MySQL D start, we will say that means server started. And to get the client prompt, we will say MySQL. Then you will get the prompt, and then you can type in your query and other things. Okay. We will talk little more about MongoDB in the next class. I'm winding up because I have to get the invited talk fellow to join the meeting and then be ready for that. So I will wind up that. I just started the meeting. So please do join that. I'm going to paste that link.
Yes, sir. We got the link in class groups also. We will join, sir.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
then today's session I'm winding up. We'll continue in the next session. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.